Hope you're getting. It is Sri Lanka, though it is one of the poorest country, they are performing good with respect to HDI. Now, don't think we can learn it with them? Now, learn it exactly imitate Manala. I'll learn that and I'll inculcate according to the need. It is capitalism. It is socialism, democratic socialism, or it is also called as Gandhian socialism too. It is capitalist-based economy where private players are being given the. It is important. It is modernity and protection of, we call it as protection of the local culture. Protection of local culture via the concept called as, it is the balanced approach, or we go to the hybrid protection or cultural adaptivism. It is Bandi, a Koot, it is a robot which is used, I can see, going for manual scavenging. Bandi, Koot and the Karidi. Bandi, a Koot. Second one, you know the example of the last one. Now the next topic we call it as, we call it as modernization. Now the modernization, the first one we call it as introduction. Now the introduction includes three important things. One we call it as the definition. Second one we call it as the uniqueness. The third one we call it as the stats or the facts or examples. Now what do you mean by modernization? Modernization andre enu? It is transition from a traditional role to transition from the traditional role to the, it is advanced, traditional to the advanced, we call it as modernization. Traditional to, we call it as, it is modern societies, we call it as modernization. By going for reformation with respect to what? By going reformation in all the sectors. By going for reformation in all the sectors, we call it as modernization. The concept of modernization, the concept of modernization has been supported by various sociologists, and out of this, the major important personality we call it as W.W. Rostow. It is W.W. the Rostow. He's a sociologist. He has supported the concept of modernity or the concept of modernization. We call it as modernization. Okay now? Yes? It is, sir, ನನಗೆ ಇದು ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಇವ್ರು ನೆನಪಾಗಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಿಬೋದಾ ಇಲ್ಲಿ? ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಬರಿಬೋದಪ್ಪ ಇಲ್ಲಿ? It is moving from, it is rural to urban societies. It is rural to urban societies. Second, it is agriculture to industry and services sector. Nothing but primary, secondary and tertiary services. Primary, secondary and tertiary services. The third one. It is the third one we call it as, the concept of democratic socialism in the, we call it as capitalist-based economy. Capitalist-based economy anta. Yadar one example very saku. Okay now? Yes? It is capitalism. It is socialism, democratic socialism, or it is also called as Gandhian socialism too. It is capitalist-based economy where private players are being given the, it is important role. It is being given the role. The next one, uniqueness. Now, what is the uniqueness about modernity? Now, is it an imitation or a conscious inculcation of it is ideas? It is, we call it as the conscious inculcation. The conscious inculcation of principles based on what approach? Based on need. Based on a need. Based on need. Yes. Okay, na bari badogli. That introduction should be in how many paragraph? One paragraph. Paragraph. Okay, not in pointers. Be cautious, not in pointers. Now, paragraph should not be lengthier. Should not be lengthier. It is 4 to 5 lines. And your handwriting should also be legible. I'm not saying good handwriting. Artha agbeku. Nimge plus bereyorge. Yes, nimge artha agate. It should be. It is understandable for the others. And the third one we call it as. This should be in how many words? It is some 30 words approximate agi. 25 to 30 words practice maadi. Okay alva? Because introduction is your preface of your answer. Now introduction ಹೆಂಗಿರಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ it is ನೀವು ಹೆಣ್ಣು ನೋಡಕ್ ಹೋದಾಗ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? Nothing but ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಕಾರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗೋದು, ಅದನ್ನ ಸೂಟ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡು ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಗೋಲ್ಡ್, ಎಸ್ ಅವ್ರು ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಗೊತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಲೋಗೋ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ, ಪರ್ಫ್ಯೂಮ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ, ಇಂಥವೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಲ್ಲ. It is all this, that should be your preface. Nothing but first ನೋಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ it should be impressive. Nothing but I need to feel to read the answers. That should be your preface of your content. We call it as introduction part. Introduction part. Adukosam introduction should be more impressive. The handwriting should be good and spacing should be adequate. Underlining should also be effective. Tuma underlining irbardu, tuma kamini irbardu. It should be more, I can say, it should be value addition. Our keywords othidre, it should be done again. And you need to read such the pointers. Okay, learn. Just here, for example, if there's a question on Gokak. Now, Gokak moment anta bardaga, or if there's a question on Gokak moment, ಏನು ಬರ್ತೀರಾ? ಹೇಳಿ. ಬೆಂಗೆ ಗೋಕಾಕ್ ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್ ಏನು ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಬರೀತೀರಾ? ಯಾವುದೇ ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಏನಪ್ಪ ಬರೀತೀರಾ? ನಾವು ಯು ಟಾಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ವಿಚ್ ಯೋರ್ ಲೊಕೇಶನ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ, ಥರ್ಡ್ ಒನ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಬೀನ್ ಏಡ್ ಬೈ ಯಾರು, ದ ಫೋರ್ತ್ ಒನ್ ಇದ್ರ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಏನು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನ ಬರ್ದಾಗ ಇಟ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಯಾವ ಇಯರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಗೋಕಾಕ್ ಹೆಡ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರ, ಯಾರು ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ, ದಿಸ್ ಗೋಕಾಕ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ ರೆಕಮೆಂಡೇಶನ್ ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ವಾಟ್, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಯಾವ ರೀಜನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಫಾರ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ದ ಚೇರ್ಮನ್, yes or no? Yes. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ if there's a question on we call it as Mandal Commission. If there's a, I can say, concept of Mandal or Venkateswamy Commission or Chinnapareddy Commission or we call it Havnur Committee recommendation, ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಇರಲಿ, now can you follow the same approach? ಯಾಕೆ ಎಸ್ಟಾಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಯಾರು ಎಸ್ಟಾಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಏನು, it is we call it as or objective what. Sorry, done. Yes. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ if there's a question on ನಿನ್ನೆ ಹೇಳಿರೋ question, it is 100th year of Belgaum session, but same concept I can inculcate. Nothing but ಯಾವ ಇಯರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಹೆಡ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರು, ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಏನು, ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ ಏನು, that is introduction. Yes or no? See, you should practice this. Whenever you are reading any content, you should know the pattern, on what pattern they have added the content, be it in test series, be it in the teaching part, or be it with respect to your, it is the textbooks. Done? Okay alva? It is introduction bariboda. Now introduction baribodu antandre, the next one we call it as, what are the factors which leads to concept of modernization? The factors leading to modernization, ಏನಪ್ಪ factors? ಬೇಗ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ನನಗೀಗ. Factors of modernization. ಬೇಗನೆ. First one we call it as education, globalization, it is scientific technological advancement. Yes. The fourth, don't you think the first one should be, well, okay, don't you think first and the foremost one should be a technological, we call it as, it is technological. Which technological? It is traditional technology we need to rejuvenate. Now modernity comes with the first factor called as, now yaad kodbe credit berevarige, because it's our own technology salva. Nothing but we need to go for it is traditional, that technological rejuvenation. Traditional technological rejuvenation. Just example kodi, where technological rejuvenation should happen from our ancient histories, medieval or modern, from our the historical contributions. Just example kodi, most important, broader, ad nimage biಟ್ಟು ಬೇರೆಯವರು ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬಾರದು ಅಂತದ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಡಿ. It is the concept of, we call it as the concept of the bricks. Nothing but it is the brick making which has been used during it is the IVC period. It is IVC, the period Okay, it is IBC periodically. The brick making. Now, brick making is exactly uniform across the IBC sites. Don't you think it is our own technological modernization? We were aware about mathematics. ಅವಾಗ್ಲೇ ಗೊತ್ತಿತ್ತು ನಮ್ಗೆ. ಹೌದೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ? Yes, ಅದು ಬಿಟ್ಟಾಕಿ. ಈ ಬ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಪಂಚ್ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ? It is the punch. Even this has been practiced since IBC. We call it as some logo or some recognition. Some logo recognition. Now, logo recognition, idika sir use ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ there are two important objectives. ಒಂದು ಬ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಕಾಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. And the second one we call it as to recognize also. ಯಾರ್ ಬ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಅಂತ. To recognize also. Okay, no? It is traditional rejuvenation. The first one we can talk about. It is IVC in the. We can talk about. We call it as the burnt bricks. The burnt bricks. It is our own innovation. It's our own modernity. It's our own modernity by using of local. We call it as local mud. Or the local. It is we call it as. It is items are being used. Second one, even really. It is, we call it as cotton, the textile making. It is, we call it as the cotton. The cotton we used to call it as Sindhuranda. We used to call it as the Sindhur or Sindhu civilization has originated from Melinda. It is cotton. The majorly, it is, which is the first civilization to go for the cotton cultivation, and we call it as extraction of thread from this. It is IVC. Okay, third, Sakudo IVC beda enough. Second, it is the third one we call it as. Can I talk about Aryabhata's concept of heliocentric theory, the concept of zero? And it's Kautilya's Arthashastra also. We can talk about all those things. But a literary evidence, but exactly technological evidence. It is modernization. It is examples which includes. It is gold coins. It is gold coins which has been made by Yarili. It is Indo-Greeks. First, the Indo-Greeks. First, we call it as Indo-Greeks when they are present in India. Indo-Greeks. But peak reached at that time only. Kushanas and Guptas. Kushanas and Guptas time only. Okay, hello, bari boda. So you can write a number of points in Gainish, but it should be relevant. It should be irrelevant. Okay, first is this. The second approach, how can modernization be achieved in the Kerala? Via education. Why the second one we call it as education. What type of education we can inculcate the modernity in society? Ingapam, Bibene. How via education we can inculcate the concept of, we call it as modernity. What education we need to inculcate? It is, we call it as the rational education, rational and scientific education. The rational, and we call it as the scientific education. Rational and scientific education. It gives rise to what? It gives rise to innovation. It gives rise to innovation. It gives rise to advanced technologies. It gives rise to advanced technologies. Now, example kortira, sir, where now rational and scientific thought process in that we have inculcated that, we have brought in innovation, and that led to advanced technologies. Now, discuss Madirad bit heli. Examples which includes the space technology. Example which includes space-related technologies. Now, India has been the master with respect to launching of what technologies or whatever satellites? The small satellites. It is launching of the small satellites like nano satellites, the pico satellites. It is India has become the only country to launch 100 satellites at one go. 100 satellites at one go, and this shows that India is master with respect to the space technology related to small satellites. ಸರ್ ಇದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದು ಯಾವ್ದಾರು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದು ಯಾವ್ದಾರು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಎನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಬಂದಿಕೂಟ್. ಇದಾದ್ರೂ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಹೋಗ್ಲಿ. ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಬಂದಿಕೂಟ್? It is robot which is used in what? Manual scavenging. Okay, at least other barcoding. It is second example, we call it as Bandicoot. It is Bandi, a coot. It is a robot which is used, I can see, going for manual scavenging. Bandicoot and the kariti. Bandi, a coot. Second one. You know the example of it is last one. It is the third one, we call it as, it is Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. It is based on our, I can say based on our need, we have gone for innovation by providing, it is zero accounts. By providing zero accounts. Okay now. Sarang idu ashtagila. At least Aadhaar based inculcation. Aadhaar, nam India innovation adu. Bere orinda kadila now. It is our own innovation based on our need. But all these are to some extent failures. Okay, Alva. It has comes with challenges, but it is will never discuss about all those things because only modernity matters. Because Aadhaar get security challenges. Recently, Aadhaar breach aitalla. Aadhaar breach with respect to Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, it is again one of the failure mission because accounts open agida, but no one is using that. Again, outcome is ineffective. Outcome is ineffective. But Gotirli, it is Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Jan Dhan Yojana. It is followed by Aadhaar. Followed by, sir, namge idella ishta agtilla antandre recent ee varshad beku andre we call it as ULI. On the similar lines of UPI. What UPI? Unified Payment Interface. On the similar lines of UPI, it is Unified Payment Interface. We have Unified Lending Interface also. Unified Lending Interface. Now this we call it as JAM, UPI, now ULI. Now this three is called as the new Trinity anta. The new Trinity. It is Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and Mobile. It is Unified Payment Interface or by Unified Lending Interface. Sir, lending andre enu antandre manege hogi nodi ashte. Okay, ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾನು ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಬಿಟ್ರೆ ನೀವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? Just I'll give you a hint. Now lending interface ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಸರ್ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ it is while the banks going for lending, they'll be knowing exact financial and non-financial related aspects. They'll be aware. ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಲೋನ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು, ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಲೋನ್ ಕೊಡಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ. It is everything will be provided at a single portal. Now, for example, think that I have 10 accounts. Now 10 accounts ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಲೋನ್ ತಗೋಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ it is one who are giving a loan, he'll be getting to know that ಯಾವ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಲೋನ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ಯಾ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ಯಾ, ಎಷ್ಟು ರೀಪೇ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಯಾ ಅಂತ. Now, don't you think genuine loan giving will start to increase, whereas bogus loan taking will come down? And that's the main objective of yavudu ULI. Okay, alva idru me maatadbodu. And the third one we call it as, the third impact we call it as globalization. The third factor which is bringing in, we call it as change. We call it as globalization. Exactly, may have inculcated UPI, Unified Payment Interface. Yes. Okay, alva. Now globalization, how globalization is bringing in modernity. When the countries are integrated, I think that India is integrated with the other countries. Don't you think India gets, I can say India gets, it has interacted with other countries. Now India gets interacted with the, think that various countries. Now ಯಾವ countries sir ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ think that with Germany, with Sri Lanka, with we call it as with Pakistan, with we call it as Europe and USA. Now I'll be getting to know the different ideas. Now you Pakistan jothe interact ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ I'll be getting to know that how to fund a terrorist. Yes or no? It is bombing idbeku, bombing tayar ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. Yes or no? Ade if I can say interacting with Sri Lanka, I'll get to know that how to improve my HDI. It is how to improve Human Development Index. Hope you're getting. It is Sri Lanka, though it is one of the poorest country, they are performing good with respect to HDI. Now, don't think we can learn it with them? Now, learn it exactly imitate madalla. I'll learn that and I'll inculcate according to the need. Hope you're getting. I'll learn that, I'll inculcate according to the needs. If I'm interacting with Germany, Germany is famous for, we call it as industrial sector and automation also. Now, don't you think based on them, I can learn and I can inculcate according to the needs at the India level, because we have huge population. The 60% of the population, they are less than what? 35 years of age. Now, how can we provide employment, sir, by training them, by providing the global, I can say skills, by providing global skills, by interacting it with the Germany. How do you know? Yes, with globalization also, I can bring in modernization. Now, how can I bring in modernization, sir, with globalization? With influence. With influence and with conscious decision making. With influence and with conscious decision making. With conscious decision making. Okay, now. Yes, this we call it as globalization. Is it an add marboda ನೀವು? Sir, add marti factors which lead to modernization anta. First, it is why the concept of industrialization, modernization, other factors which includes industrialization, which includes urbanization, all these things also we can bring in. We can bring in different automation, different technology, different, we call it as planning part, can also be inculcated. Sir, example, example which includes, it is e-Bhumi project which has been inculcated in land digitization or land records. It is Karnataka government's concept of Yavdo. It is e-Bhumi. Sir, it was recent concept called as Kaveri portal. The Kaveri 1 and 2. Okay, Alva. It is Kaveri 1 and 2. Major talks about what? Registration. It is registration. Adu beda sir nange Sakala. The Sakala Yojane. The Sakala Yojane talks about what? The timely delivery of services. The Sakala Yojane talks about the timely delivery of services. Timely delivery of the services in efficient manner. Now, Nam Karnataka, the most important sir on the Kedre, REMS. What is REMS? Rashtriya E-Market Services anta. Kelidira, E-Nam yarinda kadira naminda. Gottilla nimge. It is E-Nam. E-Nam andra Electronic National. It is agriculture market system has been robbed from Karnataka government scheme called as REMS anta. Now, which is the first state to implement this E-Nam concept in the Karnataka? Naminda Kadiradoro. It is Rashtriya E-Market Services. Rashtriya E-Market Services talks about digitization of the agriculture markets, APMCs. Digitization of agriculture markets, we call it as Rashtriya Electronic, the market services. The market services. Baribodam. Yes, all this are leading to modernity. All this are leading to modernity. With globalization also, with globalization, Bengaluru has become the IT hub also. Now IT and BT are Jamanadu, but now Bengaluru is called as what capital? Okay, IT and BT is Jamanadu, it is SM Krishna, Auru Odru. It is startup capital on the wrong. Nothing but the startup capital status has been captured by Gurgaon. Because Gurgaon is, I can say, establishing more startups than Bengaluru. Bengaluru was a startup capital during 23. End of the story. Now it is Bengaluru is called as data capital of the India. It is data hub. We are moving towards establishment of data. So data next because data is considered to be it is new currency, 21st century new currency or new oil. Now India is establishing data. Now that data will be sent across the world and sent across India to earn the revenue. To earn the revenue, and that is the strategy of this Invest Karnataka also this year. That is the strategy of Invest Karnataka also. The PM Karge as well as DCM. They have met and have discussed about what concept? It is Invest Karnataka Naditalva. Yes or no? It is industrial, the policy majorly it is majorly focusing upon data center policy. Data will be the center of the policy and data will be the center of the policy. The focus has been given by both our IT minister, IT and BT. IT and BT alla, BT. It is okay. It is the data center policy. These ministers, they have come out with a policy called as, it is majorly making any. It is Bengaluru the, it is, we call it as data capital of India. Data capital of India. Okay, in Bariboda Ogli, it is, we are moving towards modernity. Nothing but it is according to the need and according to approach, we are changing our policies. We are changing the policies. Okay, now the next one we call it as the salient features, or we call it as the characteristic features. Now, what are the salient features or characteristic features? Now, can I apply the same strategy here? Same culture in the influence, inculcation and outcome? Marboda. It is not a ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ modify ಮಾಡಿ ಇದು ನೋಡ blueprint, same blueprint. The first and a foremost one we call it as the first and a foremost one. ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನೋಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ now is the influence from external or within. Second, what will be the outcome? What will be the outcome? And the third one we call it as inculcation. Inculcation. And the fourth one we call it as bringing reforms. Okay, now influence is it from outside or within? It is, we call it as influence can happen from, it is within and external also. External as well as internal, but major, I can say influence will be coming from internal in the. Now, based on our internal needs, we will be going for inculcation of modernity. We'll be going for inculcation of a concept called as Inapa. It is modernity. We'll be going for a concept called as modernity with the influence of internal. Second one, it is inculcation. Now, what principles we'll be inculcating here? We will be inculcating the traditional structures or modernity, advanced features. It is advanced. We call it as the rational and the scientific thoughts by focusing more on what? Advancement, by focusing more on innovation, by focusing more on science and technology. By focusing more on science and technology. By focusing more on science and technology. Okay, now reforms. Now, reforms, is it happening in few sectors or in all the sectors? It is all the sectors, starting from culture, religion, society. Culture, religion, society, the polity, its economy, followed by governance, all the features. Nothing but reformation will take place at all the different areas. All the different areas. Sir, example, sir, culture, or I can say it is reformation. Don't you think if I'm moving from traditional caste based in the class based move, don't you think it is modernity? How they do? Yes. Adhe riti society nodadadre, if I'm moving from, I can say, the rural based economy to the urban based economy, don't you think it is modernity? Adhe riti politically, it is, if I'm moving from nepotism and if I'm moving towards democratic society, don't you think it is modernity? If I'm moving from fundamentalism and if I'm moving towards, I can say, egalitarian society, don't you think it is the reformation? Adhe riti economy nodadadre, it is gender inequality, and if I'm moving towards, I can say, it is occupational roles, diverse occupational roles. Don't you think it is economic, I can say, modernization? Yes or no? Yes. It is just a transition. It is transition ಆಗ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, alva. Last one we call it as outcome. Now, outcome ಹೆಂಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಪೈಲಿ? Outcome will be achieving an outcome called as the utilitarianism concept. Now, what is utilitarianism concept? It is utilitarianism. ಏನಪ್ಪ utilitarianism ಅಂದ್ರೆ? Nothing but it is maximum good for the maximum people. It is maximum, good for maximum the people. This concept has been given by Jeremy Bentham as well as J.S. Mill. It is J.S. Mill. Jeremy Bentham as well as J.S. Mill, they have given a concept called as utilitarianism concept or consequentialism. Utilitarianism, or we call it as the consequential approach. The consequential approach in the okay now. Yes, this we call it as characteristic features, or we call it as the salient, the features. Okay now. Yes. The next one. Now, sorry, modernity, other positives say no, and negatives say no. Will there be negatives? Will there be negatives? Yes. But will that negatives be almost similar to where it is westernization, or lesser than that? Lesser than that. Yes, perfect. Okay, alva. Ivaga process ಹೆಂಗಿರತ್ತಪ್ಪ always and always. Always and always ನಮ್ಮ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಆದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? Sanskritization. After Sanskritization, it will be westernization. ಇದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ it is modernization. Now, can I directly jump into modernization? Yes. Can I directly jump into westernization? Can I directly jump into Sanskritization? Yes. It is always a possibility. Always a possibility. Nothing that it is, for example, think that nani good now nani good daga. Now I can also, if I'm interested, I can go for Sanskritization also. Nothing but Sanskrit language kalibodu. Or ontara, it is British accent westernization. Or I can also go for it is joining ISRO or DRDO for going for modernity. Yes or no? Always a possibility. Yes or no? It is, though we'll be following this procedure. Sanskritization admele westernization is admele modernization. Now this is a major procedure, but that does not mean that we need to follow the same procedures. We can violate and we can reach it to the other steps and procedures also. Yes, but we are in which I can say social mobility, andre we are in this. Majority of people are in westernization, but we need to move from we need to move from it as we call it as westernization as well as westernization to modernization. Sir, inu simple agi helkodi anta kelidre, nothing that this is a Sanskritization. Now Sanskritization admele, this we call it as westernization, modernization. Now normally Sanskritization talks about the change in the culture. Majorly talks about cultural changes or cultural limitation of yardo, cultural limitation of upper caste people, majorly Brahmins. Now, e culture jotege the food habits, the values, ideology inculcate madidre, it is westernization. Now, if I'm going for reformation with respect to all the stages, we call it as we call it as modernization. Yes or no? Now, which one is the basic? Sanskritization is basic, it is westernization is moderate. We are in westernization, and the outcome will be it is modernity. Outcome should be modernity. Outcome should be modernity. Okay now? Yes. Okay. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳಿ ಒಂದು 5 ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್. First, okay, it is the first one we call it as it is change in lifestyle will take place. Sir, what do you mean by change in lifestyle? Nothing but focusing more on HDI, focusing more on HDI related targets, focusing more on HDI related targets. What do you mean HDI, Andrea? Human development, I can say index targets. Now, what are the parameters of HDI? It is education, health, and standard of living. Idhar bagge focus marti majorly. It is will be focusing upon it is health, followed by we call it as it is education, followed by standard of living. Standard of living. Okay now. Yes, first one done. Second one. It is obviously it is second one we call it as empowerment of, why only women? It is empowerment of, we call it as marginalized sections or the depressed classes takes place. It is empowerment of marginalized sections. Marginalized is yaru bartare illi. It includes women, the Divyang, the transgenders. It is minorities. Followed by it is the depressed classes, SC, ST, OBC. All those things comes under. It is, we call it as marginalized sections. Okay now. Yes, second feature done. The third one. It is third one. It is, they'll be focused on balance between growth and growth and development. The balance between growth and development, Andre, we call it as sustainable development goals. It is, we call it as, will be achieving a sustainable development goals. What is the rank of Karnataka with respect to SDG? It is 5th. It is according to SDG India Index released by Niti Aayog. Now, which state is the top rank with respect to SDG? Uttarakhand and Kerala. Uttarakhand and Kerala has got the joint ranking for the first rank. And the second, it is the second one you should know here is the rank of Karnataka, we call it as, it's been ranked the, it is 5th. It's been ranked the 5th. It is with respect to 2024 SDG target released by Niti Aayog. Released by Niti Aayog. The fourth advantage we call it as the focus on R&D will start to increase. The focus on R&D will start to increase. Example ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ sir, ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ or ನಮ್ಮ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದವರು focus ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಂತ. We have recently established in the year 2023, we've established a dedicated organization for science, we call it as ANRF. It is 50,000 ಕೋಟಿ establish ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ. And this has been headed by our Prime Minister, directly reporting it to Prime Minister. Anusandhan National Research Foundation. Anusandhan andre? It is research. It is Anusandhan, achieving of self-reliance, Atmanirbharata. Anusandhan National Research Foundation, which has been established in the year 2023 under the Ministry of Science and Technology. It has been chaired by Prime Minister. Chaired by Prime Minister. We can never give it to any minister. We can never give it to any minister. Adukoskaram, ANRF. And the second recent one, it is one scientist, one product of, it is ICAR, the bold initiative by Shivraj Singh Chauhan government. Shivraj Singh the Chauhan being a Ministry of Agriculture. Minister of Agriculture, one scientist, one product of Indian Council of Agriculture Research. Nothing but one product or one seed or one, it is technology need to be developed every year by the 5,000 plus ICAR scientists. 5,000 plus ICAR scientists. Lab to land technology we need to increase. Lab in the land technology tumba minimal ide. Now, do we have any initiative with respect to Karnataka government related to technology in agriculture? It is establishment of high-tech hiring centers. High-tech kelilva economic survey. It is, we are establishing high-tech with respect to high-tech andre high-tech alla. It is high technology anta. It is high technology. The renting equipments will be established at the local level. Renting equipments will be established at the local level so that the small and marginal farmers can, it is, take it for rent and they can use it and they can return it back. And that we call it as 100 high-tech centers will be established in Karnataka. 100 high-tech centers will be established. Adadmele advantage enappa. The last advantage we call it as, don't you think it is, we'll become leader with respect to, it is science and technology and innovation. Now, if we achieve this, automatically, the science and technology and innovation will start to, I can see, increase. And example, it is Queen or Kheer city. The Queen or the Kheer city. Queen andre? Knowledge, it is wellness and innovation. It is the Queen and the Kedadre. It is again the wellness, the Kheer andre. Now, matli Kheer anta itto. It is knowledge, health, and it is innovation and research anta. Adana, it is Queen madidare ashte. It has been Linda's Queen. Okay, positives ಆಯ್ತು. ಏನಪ್ಪ negatives? What's the negatives of this? Challenges of modernization. Now, challenges of modernization in challenges are first challenge. Now, don't you think there will be resistance from cultural fundamentalism in the or cultural fundamentalist people in the? Don't you think there will be resistance? Nothing that in Afghanistan, it is the people are moving towards modernity or moving towards westernization. Don't you think there will be resistance against it is traditional people? And that traditional resistance, we call it as the cultural fundamental resistance. It is, we call it as resistance from whom? Resistance from the cultural fundamental people. The cultural fundamental people. They want maintenance of status quo. Engidu ange irbeku. Adu burka andre burka ange. And we call it as maintenance of status quo. Maintenance of status quo. Okay now. Second one. Or second challenge. The second challenge, don't you think if you are moving towards modernity, there can also lead to cultural erosion? The loss of culture can also take place. How they will? The loss of the culture can also take place. Lack of traditions or loss of traditions, lack of values, all this can take place. Values can take place. Third one, Bibine. It is emergence of nuclear families. Okay, adu barate culture, loss of culture again. It is economic divide will take place. Avadu, it is economic divide will take place. Now, idella agadrinda, don't you think conflict will take place between the people? Conflict, nothing but crimes will start to increase. The crimes will start to increase. Okay, Alva? Yes. Now, what can be the way forward? For modernization? In Baritira. First, nothing but there need to be a balance between. First, there need to be a balance between it is modernity and protection of, we call it as protection of the local culture. Protection of local culture via the concept called as it is the balanced approach, or we go to the hybrid protection or cultural adaptivism to achieve our theme called as it is, we cover the theme of Republic Day. It is Swarnim Bharat, Vikasat aur Virasat. Nothing but sir, Swarnim Bharat andre ಏನು ಸರ್ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ golden India. It is Vikasat aur Virasat. Now Vikasat andre development, aur andre and, Virasat andre heritage. We can achieve heritage along with development also. We can achieve a target called as the Swarnim Bharat. Swarnim andre golden India. The golden India. Vikasat aur Virasat. Okay now. Yes.